Oh, hello friends. I didn't see you walk in. I'm just enjoying my nice glass of Merlot whilst reading Marvel Comics' Thunderbolts Volume 1, Issue 118. It's getting to a gripping point near the end. It's my favourite. Now, for today's Vlogtober entry, I wish to tell you a story of what happened to me up in Edinborough Fringe Festival. It's quite a simple story, to be honest. I have to warn you, today's Vlogtober entry is not going to have the usual kind of crazy editing or the comedic goofishness that you might expect from me and my channel. Today is just going to be a plain, simple story about my time up in Edinburgh, and there's a very high chance that it's going to be boring. So, if this doesn't sound like your cup of tea, then I would suggest you switch off this video for today and return to my channel tomorrow. But for the rest of you who wish to stay, I hope you enjoy. I shouldn't drink this wine. It was one evening in Edinborough Fringe Festival. The RG team had just finished their RG Podcast live performance. We'd done some flyering and we'd watched one or two shows. And Michael Bell, he invited me out to an evening show of this comedian that uses heavy metal for his routine. I forget the comedian's name, but it sounded like a great laugh, so I was in. Michael Bell and I, we head off to the venue. However, Michael Bell got the wrong address and we ended up at the wrong venue, and by the time we worked out what had happened, we were already 15 minutes too far from the start of the show. So we were late, so we were going to miss it. Michael Bell really screwed up that day. I mean, if I happened to be a blonde, busty, beautiful bird, then I would have written him off as a failure and he would have got no action that night. However, all was not lost, because PDT was around and he was enjoying a quick pint and he invited us out for a drink. We wanted to try and salvage the night, so we joined him. We arrived at the pub and we saw him reading his tablet, reading a Marvel comic. I'm not sure which one specifically, but it was something to do with the original Sin storyline which was happening. And let me tell you, that Marvel comic storyline, a little bit of a shame. Now, what started off as a really promising, interesting murder mystery story ended up being a little bit of a letdown. I'm noticing that kind of trend with Marvel Comics, but that's a different story. Michael Bell and I, we got the drinks in and we started chatting. The three of us, we were talking about philosophies of comedy, what does work, what doesn't work, reminiscing about good shows, and just generally shooting the shit. And then we were joined by some more of Michael Bell's friends. Tom Mayhew, Sam Boskill, a gentleman named Rich. I didn't catch his surname, I apologise. And again, we were all just getting the drinks, getting more and more merry, talking about all sorts of different things, having a good time. And the evening ended. 2 a.m, all merry, and we all stumbled back to our homes. And I had a really good time. Now I hear you saying, Grax, why are you telling us this really boring story where nothing really happens and you end up having a really good time? Well, that's kind of the point. I had a really good time. And I hadn't felt that way for quite some time. See, with these guys, I felt a sense of connection, like a real sense of belonging. I felt like I'd known these guys for a long time, even though, with the exception of Michael Bell, I had only met them that evening. Met them properly. It's been years since I've had this feeling. It reminds me of the one time where I was at university, my old university, and I was with my tabletop roleplay group, and we were playing games like Vampire the Masquerade, and Shadowrun, and and Warhammer 40k, and Dungeons and Dragons and the likes. I had a real sense of connection. I felt like I belonged with that group. I felt like I belonged with that group of nerds. And I had that same sensation with PDT and Tom and Sam and Michael and Rich. It may not be super nerdy, but I felt connected. I felt like I was part of their group. And I really enjoyed that feeling. I didn't tell them at the time, but I want to tell them now that I really had a good night. I really had a good night that night. And we should definitely do that again sometime. Sometime soon. Let's just get together and have a few drinks. I guess the moral of the story is you should try your hardest not to lose connection with your friends. You shouldn't have to wait so long to have that feel-good feeling. Yeah. As for Michael Bell and I, we did try again. The next day we did try and go out and watch this show where a bunch of comedians was taking the mick out of various wrestling promos. However, we arrived at the venue and we wandered around the block 3 or 4 times trying to find the entrance. We were 20 minutes late. I guess some bromances were just not meant to be. Now, if you'll excuse me, this issue of Thunderbolts is not going to read itself. I bid you good night. Oh, Venom, you're a monstrosity. Trump, indeed.